to Breakfast with Dr. J. Hope you've had a great week and the weekend's looking terrific. The weather here in Sydney has been looking terrific this morning and I'm sure the weekend's going to look even better. Look, today's session is as a quickie, but it's going to be something that's a little bit left field. And it's not all about sales and the techniques and all that sort of stuff. It's a few questions I'll ask you to see how you're faring as far as your personal presentation goes, where it comes down to selling something. So today's session is all about why your professional presentation, your personal presentation, affects the outcomes of your sales, how it makes a difference. And it's not really about techniques today, but it's actually something that no one actually talks about. It's quite taboo. People say you need to be dressed well and all that sort of stuff, but really, do we really go to the nth degree to make sure that we connect in a different type of way? So what I'd like you to do is have a pen out and just ask yourself some questions this morning and see what you can do to let's say raise the bar to make sure that you become incredibly memorable. So when you pop on, say hi in the comments. I can't see any little thumbs up or anything, but it's always good to see a few people pop on. And let's give you some ideas on what to do with your presentation. Now, why does your personal presentation make a difference? Why does it matter? And the reason is that we use our senses all the time. And when people meet people, you'll have a first impression. It's what you say, but it's also a lot about what you look like and also what you smell like. And it's the little things that people remember. I remember some time ago, someone told me about someone that they met and everything was going good, but they told me the things that weren't right, and it was usually about their personal presentation. Now, things like, what did you wear? What do you wear when you go to see people? You say you wear your uniform. Is it freshly ironed? Now, people are really critical. People love to criticize. You might say you don't, but a lot of people do. And when it comes down to in a sales presentation, it's really important to make sure that you are perceived as an expert and of high quality. So your personal presentation is representative of your brand. So it does matter. And I know for a fact that people come back to people that presented really well. Not they physically presented, but presented themselves really well. I know some people are presenting in the health and wellness area. And sometimes they'll go to a presentation, they've had a busy morning or whatever, and they just, just a little bit disheveled, but it's okay. Well, let me just tell you, it's better if you get undisheveled and ready to help that person because they don't know what you've been through. Remember, they're looking for a professional as well as someone that knows their stuff. It does make a difference, whether you like to believe it or not. Now, there's another etiquette that I want to discuss today, and it's online etiquette. What's your personal presentation like online? And isn't it interesting? We have less of the senses. We don't have the smell, we don't have the touch, but we only have the eyes and we have the ears. Now you could sound terrifically, but if you're looking like you've just got out of bed, or you've got a whole lot of mess in your background, or you're not looking kept, in other words, neat and tidy, looking smart, girls with a little bit of makeup on if need be, guys with a freshly ironed shirt, not looking like a little bit of stubble going on because you've worked from home. These are the etiquettes that we sometimes forget when we're online, and it is unforgiving. So you've got to make sure that you really look fresh. You might have a background, or you might have a clear background. Today I took off a background, but I've just made it nice and white. So the online etiquette, as I said, is unforgiving. If we get it wrong, it becomes memorable. And there's all sorts of places like the lighting and all the other bits and pieces, but I'm just talking about you right now. Because The online personal presentation is even more important because you have less of the senses that you're using. Now, you'll get away with, smelling great, or they can see your shoes, or whatever the case may be. But online, it becomes really difficult if we miss the boat. So there's a couple of reasons why it matters, but also the online component is very different. A lot of people actually talk about online stuff, and it's becoming common conversation, but there's limited amounts of training, and people are just bumping into a few walls hoping it works. Now, the next thing I just want to cover with you, some of the do's and don'ts. Always make sure that whether you're belly to belly, especially belly to belly, that you have clean clothes. Now, that might sound, of course we have clean clothes, but sometimes I've seen that they're not that clean. Have your suit dry cleaned. Make sure it's a freshly ironed shirt. Make sure your hair's brushed. Yeah. Make sure your hands are clean. Don't go with dirty hands. That sounds a bit strange, doesn't it? Well, guess what? Women will look at your hands. And also make sure you have clean shoes, or not scuffed shoes, if you're going face to face. Now, online we get away with just wearing your socks. But it's really important. These are some of the things you must do now. We only get one chance to make a good first impression. So make sure that the hair is clean and tidy. Make sure that you're looking bright and fresh. And if you're face to face, make sure you're smelling great and you haven't got that garlic breath, or whatever the case may be. Because people remember the olfactory factor with women is 5 times stronger than a man. So there's some do's and don'ts. How are you going with your little box of ticking to say, what am I doing well? What can I improve on? What can I raise the bar in? Now, what are the ramifications? Now, the ramifications are quite dire. As I said earlier, people like to remember the bad things, the things that didn't work, the things that they could complain about or talk about. I met this person and they did this. They love to remember the bad stuff. They don't just wave your thunders and say how terrific you looked and how your personal presentation was. They will tell other people if it wasn't. The ramifications are people then talk. Then it's Chinese whispers, and you know what happens with that. The ramifications also, it actually is representative of your brand. If you're having a bad day or a grubby day and so forth, it does reflect on your ability to go to what's next. Some people just want to turn off or just say, no, I can't be done with it, and so forth. So the ramifications can be quite dire. And I've seen a lot of people go through this process, and I've heard the feedback from others saying, gee whiz, don't go here, this person's like this. He was a grub, or it was really messy, or whatever. And I'm saying, wow, that's really harsh. And I'm just taking it on board for what they said, but it was about their personal presentation, not their presentation of their sales. So the ramifications can be quite severe. You don't get the follow-up. They don't answer your calls, or you don't try to do the upsell or cross-sell, or you get limited amount of referrals. It's the untold story. People don't talk about it. They just don't do things. Or they do things and they maybe talk about stuff and exaggerate. Isn't that interesting? Now, the last couple of things I wanted to do is to make sure that how it affects sales if you have a good presentation. Well, guess what? You're going to be a cut above the rest. Dress to impress. Not overdress, but dress to impress. Make sure that if you were the best in the game, think about it, if you were the very best in what you do, what would you be presenting in? And don't just say, well, this is what everyone else does. How can you be a little bit different that raises the bar so your personal presentation looks absolutely fantastic? You get your hair done, your shirt, suit, shoes, always a little bit better than your competitor. Want to be remembered by, your product and your service and the way you did things, but also you, because it's you proprietary limited. You're representative of you, but also your brand. I can assure you, it affects sales quite significantly. People remember how you smelt and people remember how you looked, and they'll also remember your service. Now, obviously, there are lots of things that happen in sales and in actually service that people come back for more. But let me guarantee you something. If you work with the basics, make sure you're clean, tidy, freshly ironed, and making sure that your hair's done or your shoes are clean. Online, making sure your background's good. Make sure that you're looking fresh. As I said, it's a little bit sexist, but sometimes the women just a little bit of makeup. I even know some of the guys put a little bit of powder on their face before they go online. You might not think that happens, but it does because they get shiny. These are little tricks of the trade that allows you to be a cut above the rest, become memorable, and making sure that people talk about you positively, not just because of your product or service, but also on your personal presentation and who you are as well. I'm sure you're all lovely people, but at the end of the day, I'm just talking about your personal presentation. So how could you raise the bar? What could you do to really sharpen an act? Making sure that the act is actually going to be sharper, a better presentation next week. Well, what are 2 or 3 things that you could do when you're doing your stuff online that allow you to raise the bar so your personal presentation and your presentation is better than last week? Personal presentation is important and it does matter. It is a taboo topic. No one likes to talk about it, but I wanted to throw out for you today. So I'd love to get some comments on what you're going to do to up the ante, make sure that it's absolutely fantastic and that you just are memorable for all the things that you do, but also your personal presentation. Now, there's lots of other little tacky things that we can throw in there, but these are some of the basics. So I hope you have a great week. And I'm going to put my latest sales guide in the comments. So if you'd like to download it, it's completely free. It's our newest one. It'll help you actually get the triggers that actually help you make more sales. That's a bit of sales stuff, but today's about something a little bit left field. So we always finish off with a bit of Q&A. If you've got a question and so forth, whack it in the comments box and I can answer your question. And for those of you that are watching this on replay, feel free to reach out, ask a few questions. I've got a checklist of things that you can do for your personal presentation. If you'd like that, just let me know and I can zip it off to you. Just give me your email. So if there are no questions, well, you have a fantastic weekend and make sure that you are safe, have a good time, and let's make sure that the rest of the month is a cracker. All right, gang, I'm Dr. J. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.